celebrating 48 years on the air. Award-winning Farm Week is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, the tariff drama continues. An update on what's happening now. Plus, an encore, it's a say cheese kind of show. We make cheddar cheese at Mississippi State University. In Southern Gardening, Eddie showcases a few of the many plants native to the state. And in our feature, we meet a farmer who proves you really can teach an old dog new tricks. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Thanks for joining us once again here on Farm Week. Needless to say, the economy is on everyone's mind, especially while the president deploys his tariff-based trade reset strategy. Many are hoping his aggressive tactical plan will work, but there's tension in the short run. Peter Tubbs from our PBS news partner Market to Market filed this report.
And today we're standing up for the American worker, and we are finally putting America first.
The Trump administration placed tariffs on imports from virtually every country on the planet at rates that are higher than the infamous Smoot-Hawley tariffs of 1930. Trade analysts estimate that up to 68% of goods imported into the United States fall under the new tariff scheme. Economists estimate the cumulative cost of tariffs could act as a $3,800 annual tax on each U.S. household. While additional costs of agricultural inputs for the 2025 crop season are still being calculated, exporters of farm commodities are waiting on the reaction of trading partners around the globe. Retaliatory tariffs from export destinations would alter trade volumes in the coming months. The global reaction to the new tariffs has been cautious as nations discuss their options, both internally and with geographic partners. China responded with a 34% tariff on all American imports and controls on the exports of rare earth materials. Exports of bulk grain declined during the first Trump administration, primarily due to a tariff conflict with China. Farmers received over $60 billion in cash payments in 2019 and 2020 to make up for lost sales due to the tariff tiff. Grain exports rebounded during the Biden administration, with shipments in the last 4 years of each exceeding previous highs. During a visit to an Iowa ethanol plant on Monday, new Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins assured farmers that an aid plan will be in place if farmers need cash to offset trade disruptions.
If necessary, we are ensuring that we are set up, we have the infrastructure ready to make whole again what that will look like.
So while many are focused on the tariffs themselves, suggesting their use may be political bravado, there's evidence that the president's plan may be working. He claimed in a statement just prior to our taping of this program that nearly 70 countries have approached the White House wanting to help rebalance global trade. And several U.S. trade groups, some of them ag groups like the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, apparently support the use of reciprocal tariffs as well. Others, like the American Farm Bureau Federation, take a reasoned approach, suggesting that in the short run, a safety net for farmers may be necessary.
Speaking of trade, Mississippi Ag Commissioner Andy Gibson was part of a delegation to Panama this week, aiming to diversify and expand market opportunities for U.S. food and agricultural products beyond the traditional customers. Gibson issued a statement ahead of the trip. In that statement, he said, quote, "Panama, one of the fastest growing economies in Latin America, relies on food imports. In 2024, Mississippi exported nearly $2 million of agricultural goods to Panama, including poultry, pet food, forest products, and pork products. I see potential to further strengthen our trading relationship with Panama." While in Panama, Commissioner Gibson and fellow delegation members met with officials, visited the Panama Canal, and observed U.S. products in the marketplace with the hope of building new trade partnerships.
On the lighter side, say cheese. Did you know that cheese is made right here at Mississippi State? And it's known all across the country and even beyond. I took a little tour not long ago, and what I saw was eye-opening. This is the MAPHIS sales store at Mississippi State. MAPHIS for Mississippi Agricultural and Forestry Experiment Station. In this store, they sell just about everything, including ice cream, about 25,000 gallons a year. Cheddar cheese, 50,000 20-pound blocks sold a year. And Edam cheese, about 50,000 3-pound balls of it sold a year. People come from all over to buy it, and they call from all over to have it shipped to them. The man behind the operation is T.J. Evans, the dairy plant manager. The plant's been in operation since 1938, but TJ's been the boss for 26 years. And when it comes to making cheese, nobody knows the process better than him. Here's a quick thumbnail on how cheddar gets made.
Normally we have one guy that comes in, usually around 4 o'clock in the morning. He will start up the milk room. He will sanitize everything, get everything ready. He will run a vat of cheese. We normally run 2 vats of cheese a day. He will run 6,700 pounds of milk into that cheese vat. The rest of our employees come in at 6 o'clock. We will start that vat of cheese at 6 with a starter culture. 1 hour later, we add color, which gives the cheese this yellow shade. 30 minutes after that, we will cut the curd and we will start cooking it. During all this time, your milk is 90 degrees. Once we start cooking it, we will raise the temperature 2 degrees every 5 minutes till it reaches 102 degrees. And we will cook it from anywhere from an hour and 15 to an hour and a half. We will cook the curd. After that, we will drain the whey off. You will be left with the curd. We divide it out on each side of the vat. Once we get it piled and divided out, we start checking an acid on the whey. And we will turn it 8 times. So once the whey gets to where we want it, we will mill it back down, salt it, pile it up, scoop it up in a bucket, and weigh it out, and then put it in a hoop. A big metal hoop, like a 20-pound block. After that, it goes in a press, sits in a press overnight. The next day, we will package it, and then it goes into a cooler for storage and aging. Sounds like a lot, but it doesn't take long.
Sounds like a complicated process, but it runs like clockwork every single day. And when it's all said and done, there's a mountain of tasty cheese just waiting to be sold and enjoyed locally and across the country. It goes fast. Even the dairy plant student workers are surprised just how fast the Edam cheese disappears.
Whenever we get a new crew of students, I will walk them in this cooler and walk them back here when this cooler's full, and I will tell them, I'll ask them, you see all this cheese? It took us a year to make this. By the middle of December, it's going to be gone. They're like, no. I'm like, yeah. Come middle of December, cheese is gone.
You might be interested to know that all of the milk from which all that cheddar and Edam and jalapeno cheese is made comes from cows right here at Mississippi State University. None of the milk comes from outside the campus.
In Southern Gardening this week, plants that are native to Mississippi. Eddie Smith is north of Starkville with a few examples, any one of which would look great in your landscape.
Southern Gardening is back at Camp Creek Native Plants in New Albany, Mississippi, continuing our celebration of Native Plant Month. Let's explore some of their unique native plants. Golden ragwort features semi-evergreen foliage with deep green, heart-shaped basal leaves that have a striking purple underside, adding extra visual interest. In early spring, flower buds emerge and open to reveal bright yellow, daisy-like blooms. Walter's violet, also known as prostrate blue violet, displays small, delicate lavender to purple flowers in early to mid-spring, bringing a subtle splash of color to shaded woodland areas. The blooms resemble classic violet flowers with 5 petals and dark purple veins that help guide pollinators toward the center. One of its distinctive traits is its small, round to heart-shaped leaves, often tinged with a hint of purple on the underside. Wood sedum, or little leaf stonecrop, is a hardy, low-growing native perennial that reaches 4 to 6 inches tall and spreads up to 12 inches wide, making it an excellent choice for creating a lush carpet of foliage. Characterized by its small, succulent, rounded leaves that are light green and sometimes take on a reddish tint in cooler months, wood sedum can tolerate periods of drought once established. All of these native plants thrive in shaded areas of the landscape. I'm Eddie Smith, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a break right here, but don't go away. Coming up in our Farm Week feature, no-till just keeps on moving up the road. 50 years ago, it was a lot less common to plow farmland before planting. Now, 2/3 of the country's farmers get a lot more value out of leaving cropland undisturbed before they put a new crop in the ground. We'll head to Northwest Missouri and meet a farmer who's proved you really can teach an old dog new tricks. The thrill, chill, and goodwill of no-till. That's coming up on Farm Week. Don't go away.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith, and their right to make their own plans and arrive at their own decisions, and their ability and power to enlarge their lives and plan for the happiness of those they love. I believe that education, of which extension work is an essential part, is basic in stimulating individual initiative, self-determination, and leadership. That these are the keys to democracy, and that people, when given facts they understand, will act not only in their self-interest, but also in the interest of society. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations, and their faith. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance toward the views of others. I believe that education is a lifelong process, and the greatest university is the home. That my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Time for the market report. Lots of volatility right now.
That's right, Mike. Everyone's talking about it. Ag is no different. Big market shifts happening as we speak. But we're going to take a larger view of it, though. We have an interview that might make the catastrophists simmer down. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then several USDA reports on livestock imports and exports, along with current crop progress. And finally, we speak with MSU Extension economist Dr. Steve Martin to get his thoughts on the current state of crops in this state. So, markets closed the week in a flux. A good bit of dramatic movement, as we said. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, corn, up 7 1/4 cents. That's more than a 1.5 bump from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, lumber, down 84.5 bucks, nearly 12.5% drop from the previous week. Keep in mind, any commodity that changes more than 3% we consider a significant move. So, some recent USDA reports give us an idea of how our livestock imports and exports are looking so far this year. And on top of that, a crop progress report now that planting has begun. Bella Bingham has the details.
This month's livestock imports and exports report showed some loss on both ends for cattle and hogs. Beef and veal imports up nearly 6% compared to last year, while exports down nearly 7%. Cattle imports down 41% compared to last year, while exports also down 10%. Pork imports down a little over 6% compared to last year, while exports down nearly 5%. This month's crop progress report shows little growth. Makes sense considering planting season has just begun. In the 18 highest corn planting states, so far only 2% corn planted, 1% lower than last year at this time. Cotton faring slightly better at 4% planted in the 15 highest cotton-producing states, once again 1% lower than last year. In the 6 highest rice-producing states, Mississippi included, 24% planted, which is 3% higher than last year. In the 18 highest wheat-producing states, winter wheat in the headed growth stage, which is the starting of reproduction before flowering, at 5%, which is once again 1% lower than last year. Condition in fair to excellent shape, 88%. Seems a good crop so far. No stats yet on soybeans, as planting has just begun.
Now we talk about the crop economic situation in this state. I recently spoke with Extension economist Dr. Steve Martin at DREC in Stoneville, Mississippi. And despite the seeming chaos in the markets right now, in truth it appears things are not as crazy as they seem, so long as you take a bigger picture view on the situation.
My guess would have been that the corn acres would have been up nationally, and they were, just because of the price run up we had in February, and so that played out. We had a rice growers, rice consultants meeting a couple weeks ago, and so we, at the end of it, we put up some acreage projections for Mississippi, and we kind of played around with it. We got pretty close on the corn. You know, we had 700,000 acres. It was 690. We were pretty close on the beans. We had 2.2 million. It was 2.25. Felt pretty good about that, but you know, we just hired Will Eubanks as our new rice specialist, and Will and I've been talking about it and getting a lot of questions on rice acres. We really thought we'd be closer to 200,000 acres of rice this year, and it came in at 150,000. So I would say somewhere between 150 and 200,000. Hopefully it's up a little bit from that. Rice is a good crop for this area. And then cotton was down. National Cotton Council had done a survey in January and had Mississippi, I think, at 465,000. You know, all the information we have out there right now today, you know, if it's all perfect, doesn't support any price increases. Something will happen. I don't know what it is. Wish I did, but something will happen. Whether it be crop failures in part of the state or increased demand, but something will. You know, crop prices are cyclical, and they'll cycle again. When that shift starts and what causes it, I don't know, but we'll see that. We'll get something worked out with the tariffs, you know, sooner or later, and we'll see some improvement in cotton. Needs demand. It needs a thriving economy and people building houses and the economy growing will help cotton prices. One thing that we forget a lot on our crop prices, all of them in the United States, is oftentimes the dollar, the value of the dollar. So a strong dollar, you know, does not support people importing our products. It helps us import theirs. So that could change. You know, we all want a strong dollar, but you know, from an ag standpoint, a commodity standpoint, you know, it's different. But even sitting here today, you know, we've got 14, 16 months to sell the crop. As long as your banker and your wife will go along with it, you know, we don't have to sell the 2025 crop, you know, for a year now, you know, over a year. And I'm not suggesting that's the right marketing plan, but I'm just saying there's a lot of time for things to change.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Hopefully the tariff uncertainty will pass soon and we can focus back on the normal factors. Mike?
Thanks, Zach. No-till farming is an ag technique for growing crops without tilling soil ahead of time. The USDA says the potential benefits are well documented, from improving soil health to reducing annual fuel and labor investments. Colleen Bradford-Krantz has more.
I have very little erosion.
Northwest Missouri farmer John Hickman remembers motorists slowing down to stare as they passed his first no-till field in 1983. The practice of leaving crop ground undisturbed until planting was uncommon enough that a lot of rubbernecking took place.
I started on a road where everybody could see me. That was a mistake. In that drill, I had a lot of trouble. I had to stop and clean it out, and everybody going by looking. They thought I was nuts, I know that, but I lived through it. I guess I'd say that.
After correcting the seed planting depth on the drill he had borrowed from the local Andrew County Soil and Water Conservation District, Hickman began to see the value of saving time and fuel with fewer trips across his fields. He soon bought his own no-till planting equipment.
Took a while to get used to it. I found out if you no-till this ground for a couple of years, that ground gets solid. Your combine won't make hardly any tracks. You don't have to worry about getting stuck. Main thing, I could farm more with less equipment and less time and didn't have to have a whole lot of help.
He ultimately converted all 1,200 acres of his corn and soybeans to no-till. While neighbors had to clean out their terraces after heavy rains filled them with runoff topsoil, Hickman, now retired, no longer needed to do so.
Now, when I was a child, we used to always, in the fall of the year, plow everything. It was fun because, you know, I still like to, even at my age today, I still like to turn that black dirt over and see that black dirt, and everybody does. It looked good until I probably got 45 years old. Then I figured out I've got to do something different because it's taking too much time for as much ground as I was farming.
Jump ahead 40 years, and 74% of north central and Midwest cropland acres are either no-till or reduced-till. Now Hickman finds himself doing the rubbernecking when he sees someone tilling a field.
I say, what are they doing that for? Why would they till that ground, steep ground? Why would they do that?
Nationwide, surveys conducted by the Natural Resources Conservation Service indicate that as of 2016, 1/3 of the nation's cultivated cropland, or 103 million acres, was farmed as continuous no-till, up from 20% a decade earlier. Another third was reduced tillage, with the last third being tilled conventionally. The East Central states and Northern Plains states have the highest adoption rates of continuous no-till, at 65% and 48% respectively.
In Andrew County, for sure, we're probably 2/3 of it is no-till farmed, as opposed to reduced tillage or conventional tillage. With the new technology, with the planters and the herbicides, chemicals, and the genetics of the seed, and then the price of fuel, especially the price of fuel this year. Anytime they can reduce trips, they're going to put more money in the bank at the end of the year.
Ted Youth was an Andrew County soil and water conservation agronomist who helped convince Hickman and other early adopters to try no-till.
You had 30% of the people were innovative, and we were trying to find new and better ways to make a living. Then if you got those people on board and going, then you had the other third that were followers that would follow those innovators and proceed ahead. Then you had the ones that they weren't going to change no matter what.
Andrew County, along the Missouri River and prone to having more wind-blown, lush soils, had serious erosion issues in the early 1980s. Much of the hilly ground has long since been terraced, but the high adoption rate of no-till farming was also seen as a key in reducing erosion.
Some fields were losing 30 to 40 tons of soil per acre per year. Generally, you could afford to lose 5 tons of soil per acre per year. In Andrew County, most of it is 10 or less right now, and a high percentage of it is probably under 5 ton, especially with the cover crops these days.
As of 2016, cover crops were used on just 6% of cultivated acres nationwide. The 19 million acres with cover crops still represents an increase from a decade earlier, when it had stood at just over 2 million acres. In southwest Michigan, brothers Jake and Ryan Droz say their family operation, Droz Family Grain, has shifted some of their 7,200 acres to reduced or no-till, but not the majority due to their area's climate and soils.
I'd say 80% of our ground is tilled, and probably 20% is reduced till or no-till. Our reason for that is we only live about 20 minutes from Lake Michigan, and the problem there is the lake effect snow. Our ground doesn't freeze in the winter like most places in the United States, And so our ground gets real muddy. If we tried to plant no-till here, we'd break all of our equipment. There's just too many. I mean, we'll get ruts that are, that deep to that deep.
The farm sits on a flat region of the state, so they have lower risk of erosion than hillier areas. Along with traditional fertilizers, Droz Family Grain also uses microbe and compost mixtures on their fields to maintain soil quality.
We're trying everything we can to adapt to no-till as much as we can, because the less money we can spend on stuff, the better. We don't want to harm the soil because that's the fruit of our labor. I think the Corn Belt is pushing really strong for no-till, that's a good thing. We should be.
No-till, more farmers taking that approach? We'll see. Well, next week, back by popular demand, this year's Dixie National Sale of Junior Champions.
It's a big story, and this year the numbers were bigger than ever. More than $500,000 raised in the sale. You'll also meet again a hard-working young lady bound for greatness.
And to top it all off, say goodbye one more time to auctioneer Jackie Corson, retiring after 30 years of helping youth raise millions of dollars. The 2025 Dixie National and Encore next time on Farm Week. And before we go, a quick note. You may have heard that in the state of Mississippi, House Bill 1006 passed unanimously, banning the production and sale of lab-grown meat. We'll have Ag Commissioner Andy Gibson's statement next week.
We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.